Bismillah, wa salatu wa salam wa rasulullah, wa ba'd, in the name of Allah, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His last and final messenger, as to what follows. Family, friends, foes, haters, and hateettes, welcome back to the Feachaz. I greet you all in peace and love and no hatred in my heart. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon all of you. And before we begin, as we ask you always, please like, please subscribe, please share, please hit me up on Patreon, and as well as subscribe to the two mirror sites. That's the infamous Feachaz on YouTube at what you call it, the Feachaz at library.com, lbry.com.
Salaam Alaikum, you still there? Salaam Alaikum, you just got off. Salaam Alaikum.
Did I lose you guys, man? Did I lose you? Did I lose me?
Yeah, you lost me for a second.
Yeah. Whoa, what's going on here? Let me just pull this one out. Remove that. Okay, there we go. Yeah, sorry, man. I guess my connection is terrible. We were testing the connection before because it was really bad, right? So it might be a problem on my side as well, because I just got kicked out. But anyway, I have my good friend and guest on the channel today, Abu Umar Afriqi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Okay, Vic, how are you doing?
This has been a long time in the making.
Yes. I've been trying to get you on for a minute, man, but alhamdulillah, we're finally here. Mashallah. So what's happening, bro? How you doing?
Alhamdulillah. Things are down here a little bit better. You might have heard that Melbourne, we broke the world record. We number one for COVID lockdown. Yeah. And this week we came out.
Yeah, mashallah.
Alhamdulillah. So it's all good. 3 months we were locked down. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Can't complain on that part.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So just basically tell us a bit about yourself. Oh, 1 second. Let me see. Yeah, tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, and what's going on there in the down under.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, as I mentioned, and as the brother mentioned, I'm in fact in Melbourne, Australia, which often people don't associate with either Muslims or black folk. But I'm a black Muslim living down here, and I'm a convert, alhamdulillah. My family, we were from the first people to come after the end of the White Australia policy. We're from Mauritius, and we're from the slave trade, right? My family's Catholic. My mother's a little bit more practicing, but also a bit more pro-black, so I got that positive influence from there. And I grew up in Melbourne, and growing up, I was fortunate. I lived in an area which is the Maribyrnong Footscray area, where a lot of East Africans, Somalis, Eritreans, Sudanese settled, and so I came up with those type of people: Somalis, Sudanese, Eritreans, a few Arab as well. So, but in the area I live, Muslims are mostly African, and I came up among those people. And I was at the time I was Christian, right? So I would interact with those brothers. They were my age. Like, we weren't always the greatest kids, but even the ones who were like not necessarily 100%, right? They still had, some Islam. So they'd still talk to me about Islam. And from a young age, like, I had sort of a religious feeling, but I never really was down with all of the Trinity and all that stuff. And then when and then on my mother's side, there was sort of this pro-black influence. And from that, I learned about our great brother, Malcolm X, rahimahullah, our great elder, right? And from these influences, alhamdulillah, when I was 15, I took Shahada. And now that was 9 years ago. So I've been Muslim for 9 years, alhamdulillah. And so from that time, when I took Shahada, I became part of the local community. and I started to attend my local masjid, which, as I mentioned, is mostly Somali, Eritrean, Sudanese. And this is important for the context of the story we're telling here. That's basically my background. Because the story I'm telling today is very much connected to that local masjid, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think we can get into that.
Let's do it. Let's get into it. By the way, the brother Abu Omar, he actually helps me a lot with the content on this channel. Him and there's some other brothers in the background that actually, provide some ideas for me. And he's one of these brothers that provide ideas. So, and there's some other brothers too that provide me with ideas and help me with research and whatnot. So I got to thank the brother. You know what I mean? He helped me research some important stuff, particularly certain closet white supremacists that we're not going to mention today.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe another time. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a whole story there as well.
I'm tired of talking about that dude, man.
Yes.
But man. But anyways, so let's get into your story. You told me this story yesterday, and
that's right.
I was pretty stunned about this story. Now, what we hope. I mean, you know what we hope, anyways. But anyway, let's just tell your story, and then we'll get into it, inshallah.
All right. So, alhamdulillah. As I mentioned, I'm from an area which is the Maribyrnong Footscray area, which is in the west of Melbourne, where the Muslims mostly are from, Somali, Eritrean. A few years before I became Muslim, but not that many, there was a white dude who became Muslim. His name is Musa Cerantonio, and that is his name. He never changed it. But he came into the Muslim community, and he began to refer to himself as Musa Cerantonio. And obviously, the white dude came in the Muslim community. And even though he's from my area originally, he kind of became bigger in other parts where the Muslim community is more Arab, Turkish, Pakistani. Because even if like a lot of the East Africans, they don't have the same level of conscience that some of us in the diaspora have, they still have that little bit, just by being African, you still kind of have a little bit of that sense of a little bit more understanding of some of these things. And so he didn't become as big in our community initially. He became bigger in the Arab community, in the Turkish community, in the Pakistani community. And within a very short period of time of being a Muslim, he was invited to go live in Egypt, and he was on Buddha TV. And as I was saying to the Feachaz before, that on the one hand, it's really good, alhamdulillah, that the internet has scrubbed a lot of his content there, because obviously you don't want people like that videos floating around. But for research purposes, it's annoying because you can't find the links. But he was on a program called Ask the Sheikh. Right? Think about it. This is a guy who just came. He would have been about my age now, maybe even a little bit younger. And he was on a TV show in Egypt. Just think about how absurd this is. In Egypt, this white dude who's my age, at the time Arabic, is teaching Egyptians. And Egyptians are calling
now, why do you think he was on that TV show?
Well, it's obvious, because he was white, right? Because he's this white Australian guy. Right? And then he was also, after that, he also worked on Iqra TV. And I sent you a clip of that, his final episode on Iqra TV, where he came out and gave this whole speech in favor of bin Laden and jihad and all sorts of extremism and, Taliban, you have to, rebel. All this, the typical Takfiri line, right? Yeah. He came out promoting this line on Iqra TV in Egypt. He came out.
So what we'll do right before we continue, just so that people know who this guy is, because because I didn't recognize the name, but I recognized the person because I actually watched a few of his videos back in the day, right?
Yeah.
So
I think everyone did.
Clips in here. They're like anything else, But you don't really think much of it. It's kind of like entertaining, whatnot. So we're gonna watch a clip right now from him. Right, so you guys like, subscribe, share. You guys share this up, man. We're going hot again as usual. Right, so let me share the screen here so that everybody knows who we're talking about, inshallah. Let me close that down. So this is the brother here, right? Let's listen to what he's saying.
So we'll start from the front and rotate in his fashion.
I remember this.
The first question from the front mic.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sir, I want to reveal you some truth for which Allah has sent me, because the topic was going about Hazrat Isa, and everybody knows that Hazrat Isa alayhi salam is going to come back. I myself want to reveal something, that I myself is Imam Mehendi, and I am giving you the good news of the arrival of the Jesus Christ, be peace upon him.
You are the Mahdi?
I just don't laugh at me, because I am the Allah's message which I have taken, and Allah has told me that you have to go and tell, because this is the high time. This is the high time. We are not doing what we are ordered to.
I have one question for you, if you don't mind. Imam
Yes,
Mahdi is
yeah.
going to speak Arabic, as you know.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم.
Brother, this is not enough. Every one of us, even the person who's
Allah chooses
as American as it could be, who accepted Islam yesterday, and he knows how to recite the Quran, could recite what we recited. But I'm going to tell you something. When I was in the US, I had a similar call, was surprisingly also from another Mahdi, but he was American. So he told me that I'm the Mahdi. So I asked him the same question. I told him, brother, do you speak Arabic? Mahdi is going to speak Arabic. He said, unfortunately, no. So brother, please, if you don't mind, I think the question that I asked you was enough. And to be honest with you, as to just save faces, there is no need for more embarrassment. So if you don't mind, you can have a seat.
I like to tell you one more thing, because it's a big thing, that, hello, you're not listening to me?
This is question and answer time. The only reason why I let it go a little bit longer is because I wanted to see what would happen.
I am not come here to just...
Please, if anyone does have a question,
I will sit.
Yeah.
we'll have the next question.
I've told my thing.
So that right there, I remember that. That was like some.
Yeah, this was one of the clips that went viral, like in the
It
Muslim.
went viral, and I watched it a couple of times. I was laughing. My Muslim leader now I'm watching is like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, the Australian brother, that was Musa, right? But I didn't.
The white dude at the beginning and the end, you can see clearly in that at the Peace TV event that he is the master of ceremony. He is there front and center. The sheikh is, I'm not sure who the sheikh is, but the sheikh is there on the podium and he's addressing the crowd. And the one controlling it is Musa. That tells you the position that he had been given for a very short period. Again, for having no qualifications, not that qualifications are everything, but for him just being a white dude, not even in the West, but in the Muslim world, right? In Egypt, in India, he was given very high positions. And then very soon after this event, again, he went back to Egypt, he went on Iqra TV, and he went on this big rant about Al-Qaeda, Taliban, they're all so good, we need to support them. And then he became very famous in the he came back to Australia, actually. And he revealed some interesting things in court, where it's in the article I said, where his lawyer pretty put forward that the whole time that he was being accused of being an extremist, he shouldn't be charged because he was working for ASIO, which is the Australian Intelligence Service. So it's not his...
Who was he working for again?
The Australian Intelligence Service, right?
A surprise.
Yeah.
Surprise.
And so he so he's working for this, and all this time he's going to like all sorts of young people and so on, and telling them, brother, jihad al wala wal bara, you have to fight for the mujahideen. All this discourse that everyone is kuffar, we are the this whole discourse that they have, right? Yeah. And then, of course, he moves to the Philippines, And keep in mind, it's worth noting, like we often don't think about it, but in the southern Philippines in Mindanao, it's true that like the Muslims there are often oppressed, and because of that, there are a lot of these jihadi groups. They don't get as much attention as the ones in the Arab countries, but they're there in the southern Philippines. So he was in the southern Philippines, and he was linked up with all these groups. He was in a bunker, staying somewhere. The whole time, by the way, that he was supposed to be big jihadi in the Philippines, he was having a relationship with some makeup artist who's not even Muslim, right? Which is, and they weren't married. This is so typical of like both a lot of these extremists, and also like a white dude in the Philippines. What is he doing? That's what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so anyway, like
he's putting cream in the cappuccino, and that's what he's doing, you know. So
yeah, exactly. And so he comes back to Australia.
Just call it is, bro. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is by the way, and now this would have been 2015, 2016. This is the height of Daesh. This is when Daesh, ISIS, the biggest news in the world. All anyone can talk about is ISIS. It's everywhere, right? He gets arrested. It's the biggest story in Australia. They put images of him being arrested in the Philippines and being put on a plane to be deported back to Australia. It's the biggest story in Australia. It's a big story internationally. Nowadays, we don't remember it at all, but it was a big story, right? As the news cycle is. It's the biggest story in the world. A month later, no one remembers it, right? So, this happens in the Muslim community still. It's like, oh, Musa Cerantonio is being sent back to Australia. Can you believe it? And everyone's like, oh, yeah, he's going to be in prison. We know. We just get it, right? This guy is known jihadist recruiter. They're saying he's the number 2 recruiter after Anjem Chowdhury, right? You know Anjem Chowdhury, the English Pakistani guy goes around. After Anjem Chowdhury. I don't know he acted like that, man. But anyway, keep going. Yeah, English. So he's the biggest recruiter of fighters to go from the Western countries to go fight in Daesh. And obviously, everyone thinks this guy's going to be in prison. There's no way that anything else is going to happen. So imagine me. I'm at Juma in my local masjid, right? Very good Maidstone area. I'm at Juma. I'm sitting there. The khutbah is going to start in about 10 minutes or so. And imagine my shock. I walk in the masjid and sit right next to me in the masjid is this guy. I took a double take. What? This guy is here in the masjid? And again, so he said to me, Salaam Alaikum, and me being a sociable person, and also I'll be honest, I'm curious. I'm like, what? Like, I thought this guy is in prison and he's here right now, and he gives me salam. I wasn't going to talk to someone like that, right? So we have a conversation like, Salaam Alaikum, how are you, brother? And we start talking, and immediately as we're talking, like, you know, you talk to someone and you get the feeling they don't like you and you're not sure why. I found out why later on, right? That he was, because remember, this is the time when Daesh was very big. So we start talking, and I give my name. I say I'm Bilal. Right? I'm all my friends are here, but my name is Bilal. And he's like, oh, you're Bilal, right? Because he knew who I was from the community. He's like, because I've been in this community for about, like, let's say, a year and a half, 2 years by this point. And again, I came in because I knew a lot of the youth, who were in the masjid. And so at this time, obviously Daesh is big, and I'm critical of Daesh. Right? I'm saying, but of course, like that's just a given, right? And so I find out. So for some of his supporters in the community, he knows who I am, right? And so him sitting next to me was not a coincidence. So we talk a little bit, and it's very clear that he's sussing me out. I didn't realize all of this at the time, but I realized it later on.
Yeah.
And then I go out of the community and I start hearing that people are saying that I'm a snitch, I'm a rat, I'm working for the federal authorities. Because I'm telling people not to support Daesh. And as you know, the intelligence services, they're committed to stopping Muslims being extremists, don't you know? The intelligence services don't want Muslims to be extremists at all.
Let me cut in here, bro. What we always talk about this on this channel, man. They're recruiting for these same people. And you mentioned what did Musa Cerantonio say? What did he say? He said he was working for them.
He was working for them.
Yeah, not for Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab, brother Haji. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Get a clue. You see what I'm saying? But anyways, continue.
And yeah, so I go online, right? And I find he had a Twitter account. I had a Twitter account at the time. I go on and off Twitter. I'm on Twitter sometimes, I'm off it. At the time I was on Twitter. And in coded language, he's talking about this guy in the community. And I realized, but I didn't say it was me. I realized he was talking about me. Right? Because this is so now he's going on social media and in coded language saying there's this convert guy, this kind of like mixed guy. He's, he works for the Taghut. He's telling the Taghut, he's supportive of the Tawari. You know the way these people talk, right? You've met these people, right?
Yeah.
And so the consequence of this, because remember now, this is not just some random dude attacking me. This is the big celebrity, the big Peace TV celebrity. And also for them, he's a great hero because he went on Iqra TV and he said Bin Laden and Jihad and all of this. So for them, he is a hero. He is their this great superhero. Superman.
Bravado, stand up against the oppressors.
The Tawagheet and all of this. Superman is saying that I am a snitch, I am a rat, I am all of this type of stuff. So what that meant is that even the youth in the community who didn't like Daesh became scared to be associated with me because if the big celebrity doesn't like you and you want to be friends with a big celebrity, you don't want to be friends with the guy, and you're a friend of a guy who the big celebrity is against. Obviously, you're going to stay away from that guy. But for me to be around Muslims who are even close to my age, I had to go to a masjid, a community on the other side of town to pray Jummah if I wanted to mix with Muslims who are my age. Right? If I wanted to be with some old men, let's be honest. I'm a youth. I don't want to just be around some old men, and so this. Right, and so that's why I ended up in a community on the other side of town, right?
Yeah.
Now this dude, obviously, he's going around, recruiting for Daesh, scream Bin Laden, blah blah blah, all of this stuff. During this time, there's a Jewish journalist. His name is John Safran. He's a comedian, but he's a journalist as well. And John Safran is writing a book. I mean, I had the book, but I gave it away, which is on extremism in Australia. And so he goes and he meets both like Muslim extremists, but the only person he met was Musa, and also like people from far right groups, people who are, from this. Because again, as a reaction to Daesh being big, what did you have? You had all these big far right groups popping up, like in Australia, we call them Patriots Front, United Australia Front, the True Blue Crew. Right, these type of guys, and of course, once Daesh died down, once Daesh died down, what did these guys do? They started a vigilante patrol, walking the streets, looking for black people to beat up, and the media. This is the thing. This is just as an aside. The media in Australia. This is how bad it is down here. The media manufactured the story that there was gangs of Africans overrunning the city because in one incident, this is what happened. This is the truth. In the neighborhood, I was born in an area called St. Albans. It's the poorest part of Melbourne. And obviously, as in all Western countries, where do our people live in their countries? We live in the poorest parts of their country. There's a neighborhood, you go to St. Albans, you won't see any white people there. You'll see Africans, you'll see Vietnamese, you'll see a few Indians, you won't see any white people there. Go to Turak, the last part of town, you won't see any Africans there. So what happened is this one incident, there was an argument between this Vietnamese guy and some African kids, and this is caught on camera, and African kids got mad, they threw a chair in the direction of the Vietnamese guy. They didn't hit him, they just threw a chair in his direction. And then the week later, there was a lot of black and Pacific Islander, but they focused on the black kids, who kind of gathered in the city, in the circle, in the Federation Square, we call it, and they were a little bit rowdy. They weren't doing anything bad. They were just gathering around, being kids, being rowdy, nighttime partying, and so on. And the media took these two incidents. This was during an election, right? Took these two incidents and made it. In fact, it made it. The Apex gang became an international story. Briefly, the Apex gang, which are these black kids who didn't exist, were turned into this huge crime problem that was overrunning Melbourne, and it could only be stopped by confusingly in Australia, our conservatives were called the Liberals, Our conservatives are called the liberals. Only by them taking power could this evil black crime wave be stopped. So what did the media do? The same guys who had been at these events protesting Islam started to walk around carrying baseball bats, looking to beat up any black person. These are open neo-Nazis. These guys openly are neo-Nazis, and the media presented these people as heroes. But that's an aside, right? So this Jewish journalist, John Safran, I'm just mentioning he's Jewish for the sake of not any anti-specific YouTube. I'm not saying anything against Jews. I'm just saying who this guy is, right? John Safran. He meets these people, and then for a Muslim extremist, he goes and meets Musa. And he and Musa are traveling around the town, being all buddy-buddy. They go to a masjid together. Actually, they went to the same masjid I went to, the same Eritrean, Somali, Sudanese. And when John Safran went there, Safran claims one of the uncles thought he was a convert that Musa had brought. And when they were praying Salah, that one of the uncles brought Safran into the Jama'ah, and Safran ended up praying with the Muslims, right? Because he was being buddy-buddy with Musa.
Journalist.
Yeah, same journalist, right?
Okay, so he's praying with the Muslims as a non-Muslim.
Yeah. In Australia, wow. I heard something like that happened with Trudeau. I heard Trudeau did something like that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And it happens. And so, but in Australia, this guy's a big celebrity. Internationally, no one has any idea who he is. But in the Australian context, he's a big celebrity, right? This journalist. So after this incident, he's being all buddy with Musa, and of course, Musa is, of course, to be fair, he might have embellished some of this stuff. But in this book that I did read, and I got rid of it because it was so terrible to read, he's telling all this about, yes, jihad, you can actually behead people for zina, and and he's talking about all this beheading and kill, this type of thing.
Yeah.
So obviously, during this time, there's an incident that happens I didn't mention to you that was kind of important, but it's an aside. Is at this time, you have these two kind of interesting characters who became associated with Musa, and it demonstrates something interesting. You have these two brothers who are called the Fawn brothers, and their background is very unusual because their background is that their father is actually an indigenous Australian, Aboriginal Australian, who converted to Islam. Their mother's from Malaysia. But they were raised in Saudi, and they studied in Saudi, and they became, allegedly they had some ties to extremism in Saudi, but at least initially it wasn't known here. When they came to Australia initially, I remember one of my friends who's Jordanian, right? And he's very connected to the Shiokhi, as I am to some degree. And he was telling me that when Junaid, who studied, I think, at one of the universities, the older brother, had an afro. And the Lebanese Shiok in Sydney, they said to him, how can you be a sheikh and you have an afro? Because initially, he wanted to do dawah with Aboriginals. So what happens is, of course, when you have the mainstream Muslim community, remember how Musa is so embraced. These two Aboriginals, they're like brothers, they're pushed away by the mainstream community. Who do they fall in with? Musa, right?
Oh wow! Look,
because this is the thing, like with these extremists.
Wow, man. You see what happens when you eat. Go ahead.
This is something we often don't acknowledge. You see, a lot of we often don't acknowledge even as black people, but a lot of our people, black people, get pulled into extremist groups because extremist groups are looking for bodies. They're looking for people who can go and fight. Because our people are kind of strong, tough. So if you're looking for soldiers, looking for warriors, I mean, in that sense, they might be more accepting of us. Look, Abdullah Faisal, going back to the 90s, he's one of us. He wasn't accepted by the people in the UK. He ended up being pulled into the army as one of them.
One second, Abu Umar. Barakallah Feek, Sister Tika, Hayakallah, may Allah reward you and multiply it for you 1,000-fold. Brothers and sisters, please keep those super stickers coming. Hayakumullah. We got some stories for you tonight, man. We got a crazy story for you tonight. So hook them up. Everybody say Ameen. Allah will give you Jannah. Ameen, Sister Tika. Hayakallah. Go ahead, brother.
So what happens is, so that's just as an aside. Like, even look at Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, what is happening in Mozambique. A lot of black people get pulled in to the orbit of these extremist groups because these extremist groups, they are I don't want to say they're not racist. They are racist, but they also but they want people who are fighters beyond anything else. And when you want fighters and they're sort of in short supply, you'll take them from anywhere, right? So in that sense, they're a little bit less discriminating. And so a lot of people get pulled into the orbit of these groups. Same happened in Australia with the Fawn brothers. The Fawn brothers got pulled and became very close with Musa to the point that, as I'm getting to right now, one of Musa's co-defendants, in fact, both of them were in the trial, only one was convicted, because the next stage after Musa becoming a, I guess, minor literary celebrity, because Australia's big writer, comedian, journalist writes a book, a big part of which is dedicated to Musa, right? Musa plots, because apparently he's missing his passport. As an article I sent you showed, that to take a boat. They bought a boat, supposedly, this group of dudes, 6 or 7 people, and they were planning to sail. It's not clear, were they sailing to the Philippines or were they sailing to Iraq? But of course, obviously, they weren't sailing anywhere. They was just, if someone tells you the idea that you're taking a boat out of Australia to travel to, obviously you're being set up. That's like,
yeah, exactly.
There's no
it wasn't any type of boat either. It's like one of those rinky dink, like they call it a tinny out there, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's like a fishing.
Yeah.
It's like a boat you would go fishing
boat. Yeah,
on.
it's like one of those fishing boats, right? So when you read the article and they said he wants to take a tinny to wherever he wants to go to become, a mujahid or jihadi, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right. You're like, what? Like what? Like what kind of plan is that? You know what I mean? It's clear you're being set up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But anyways, go ahead.
So these guys, this was now 2017. These guys again, and this also becomes the biggest story in Australia. That these absolute clowns, him, 6 other people, get arrested plotting. In fact, they were driving the boat. This is the other thing. It's not like they bought the boat in Northern Australia. They bought the boat in Melbourne, and then tried to tow the boat. They tried to tow the boat the whole length of the country.
Yeah.
To travel in this. And so having done that, yeah, exactly. To go travel to Iraq to fight jihad. This is the delusions that these type of people sell, right? I mean, if you don't realize you're being set up, the best case is you should know you're being set up. That some guy says, "Brother, look at my fishing boat. We're gonna go on it and fish up in Iraq. We're gonna fight jihad." What is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I mean, these guys that get caught pretty close to the north, Cape York. Interestingly, Cape York is actually one of the only areas in Australia that has an Aboriginal majority. That's kind of interesting that they went there and not the other way. They get caught. In fact, you know what? I'm going to tell you this. They went to an area of Aboriginal, i.e. an area with very high police presence. I just realized that. They went to an area which is an Aboriginal area, an area with very, very large police presence, as opposed to other parts of Northern Australia, which are not very well guarded at all. Right?
Yeah.
So you see, even here, you see how the setup is happening.
Yeah. That's so crazy, man.
So these guys go to court, and Musa's lawyer comes out and says that, Your Honor, my client, first of all, he's not even a practicing Muslim. He loves heavy metal. This is the court document. He loves heavy metal music. He doesn't fit it, and he does not say all this stuff he likes that's haram. Your Honor, my client is not an extremist. He loves heavy metal. He's really just he loves Monty Python. He's really not a practicing Muslim at all. That's what he says. And also, in addition, this is in the court documents. In addition, you see, Your Honor, my client actually, and here's the proof, has been working for ASIO, which is the Australian Intelligence Service, since 2013. So anything he did, he can't be charged for because he was an ASIO agent. You can't punish somebody. And then the court said, well, actually, when he went to the Philippines, apparently this was unsolicited. So he got a very short sentence for apparently breaching something, right? Because he wasn't supposed to go to the Philippines.
So I want to cut in here again, bro, because when you look at your so-called Islamic jihadi elite.
Yeah.
You know, your mujahideen, your Khawarij types, they have this thing in common. And what you have on the other side is you have a whole bunch of Sufi types and Deobandi and whatever saying it's the Wahhabis. You know what I mean? So you have two sides. Really what they're doing is destroying Islam from the inside. You feel me?
Yeah.
Because if you look at Osama bin Laden, if you look at the blind Sheikh Abdurrahman, and if you look at this guy, Musa Cerantonio, right? If you look at all these, even what's that guy from Britain, man? He was an agent
Andrew
too.
Chowdhury.
I can't remember his name. Is it Chosen?
Andrew Chowdhury.
Yeah, I think he's an agent,
Andrew
right?
Chowdhury.
He was an agent, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
They're all agents. They're all agents. They all work for intelligence agencies. And y'all run around here talking about whatchamacallit, the Khawarij. Your governments are the Khawarij. Hello? It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Your governments are funding this stuff.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Exactly.
Anyways, go ahead. This is so nuts. Go ahead.
So this is what I was really the heart of what I was going to get to is that earlier a few weeks ago, a friend of mine who's born in Australia, he's a Pakistani imam, but he's born in Australia. He's a cool dude. I get along with him, right? He's a friend of mine, and he came to me. He's like, "Did you hear?" I'm like, "Hear what?" He said, "Did you hear about Musa?" I'm like that dude, because obviously, like I said, Musa is a guy I have a personal animus towards because he had an issue with me, right?
Yeah.
He's released a letter from prison saying that in addition to renouncing extremism, he's renounced Islam as well. That's what he said. And I said to him, I'm like, well, and he's like, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm not surprised. That was my reaction. I'm not surprised. And then the sheikh said to me, he's like, how do you, I could see, look, I don't want to disrespect the brother and say he supports extremism, or he doesn't. But I could see in him, there was a sadness that this guy, like obviously, hearing someone left Islam is obviously sad, but I could see in him there was something else, like the idea that this guy particularly had left Islam, like not because he was this great jihadi leader, but there was something else, right? Because this is my friend, I know the guy. He's like, did you hear he left Islam? I'm like, I'm not surprised. He's like, but how do you feel as a convert about this, that he left Islam? I'm like, I'm black. He's white. Our experience as converts is completely different, right? Like I don't.
Can you repeat that again, bro? Can you repeat that again? Because you got cut off there. Repeat it again.
I told him, I'm like, when he asked me, how do you feel as a convert? I'm like, I'm black. He's white, right? Our experience as converts is completely different, right?
Yep. Yeah, people gotta understand that.
Yeah, we don't have the same experiences. He was at Peace TV. He was a big world celebrity on the Ummah, right? You know, that's what happened within 2 years of him being Muslim. I mean, after 7 years in the Muslim community, I gave one talk in a local masjid. After 7 years of being in the Muslim community, one imam said, we're having a youth night. Would you like to talk to some youth about, we want to have a young person, we don't have a young person, would you like to give a talk? And I've been Muslim 7 years by that point. MashaAllah. Local masjid talk.
Yeah.
This is and what I wanted to get to with this whole Musa situation is that, yes, it's about this guy, but here is a microcosm. This is a case study in what happened with converts. Because to me, this whole situation around Musa is about race. It's not about like Musa as an individual. If Musa looked like me or was darker, do you think he would have been a big celebrity? He would have been on Peace TV, controlling the crowd as the master of ceremony? Absolutely not.
Hell
right?
no. Hell to the no. Hell to the no. We know that already.
He would have been he would have been teaching Egyptians about Islam. In Egypt, you would have been giving a talk. In Egypt, doesn't even know Arabic. And someone just posted a comment, Ibrahim Khan.
Go ahead, read it, bro. The links
people go in order to destroy Islam from within, and people swallow their propaganda on Islam, but they assume they lie about everything else. So true. Yeah. It's very true.
Yeah, and really the Muslims really need to understand that. They had munafiqun at the time of the Prophet, say something, correct? Right? They existed, and Allah talked about them specifically in the Quran, correct? These people who show the veneer of Islam in your face, but really they hate Islam in their hearts. And they go into the masajid, they look like you, they're praying with you, and all this kind of stuff. You understand? They have beards and toes and everything like that. How many more munafiqun do you think we have in our time, right? So I mean, honestly, like, of course, there's a thing in your heart. We hope that this story isn't true and blah 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 blah. But if he really is an agent and he's setting up the Muslims, if that is true, would you want anything less? You understand? What? If he's admitting that he's working for the authorities to set up Muslims.
And just this whole tin boat thing, just this whole boat, the fact that he's getting young Muslims in the community to get on a boat with him and travel to the Middle East. Just
on a fishing boat.
Completely full of shit, you know?
Yeah, on a fishing boat. You know what I mean? It's like crazy. It's insane. You know what I mean? And people go for it. Y'all, you know what I'm saying? You go for it. So really, when you have people they're out there talking about, oh, Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, this, sorry, Brother Haji, but I'm sorry. There's your Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab. There it is. There it is. I keep saying it. And it's not one or two. It's time after time after time after time. When you look at these jihadi types, every single time, there's an agent in the background recruiting and trying to get people, you know, to go to.
And this is what happens to a lot of, as I mentioned, our people is like a lot of our youth or like say young Somalis and so on, you know, who are alienated from the society. Often they're alienated from the Muslim community. And then an agent will come to them and say, brother, the reason the community is bad is because we turned away from jihad. You need to return to the path of Allah. Brother, come fight for us in Iraq. Brother,
you jihad with what? Jihad with what? A butter knife? You know what I'm saying? Like, where you
they send people to go stab people in the streets. It's like, what? What jihad is that?
What are you talking about, man? What jihad are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, have you seen the training that some of these soldiers go through in their armies? It's not a joke. You know, have you seen special forces in Australia, in Canada, especially in America, of course, you know, Britain, these special forces, all the training they have to do in order to, you know, become warriors and killers? That ain't no joke. You think you're gonna show up with, you know, a plane ticket and a passport and your funny looking self in some Muslim country talking about you fighting jihad? Are you kidding me? What kind of jihad is that, man?
You'd be lucky if they don't. If they don't kill you or mistreat you personally, you'll be lucky. If they don't send you on the front line to die like straight away or put on a vest or something, that's what they're gonna do to you.
Yeah, you know, hey guys, I'm gonna fight jihad. How are you gonna do it? I'm gonna take this fishing boat and just show up and start pelting handfuls of sand at the enemy. Let's go, Allahu Akbar. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, remember, they had the fishing knife. There's a fishing knife in that boat. Don't forget. Don't forget it. There's a fishing knife in that boat.
There's 7 of us and 1 fishing knife.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going up against drones and stuff. Like, come on, man. Come on, just wake up and smell the coffee, bro. You know, and a part of that, again, it's you know, the enemy, they are experts in divide and conquer. Experts. They have been doing this for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. You know, they know exactly which buttons to push, what propaganda to spread, who to hire, they study this stuff. They're not messing around. You know what I mean? So a lot of this comes from these divide and conquer tactics. You know, like when they want to recruit people to fight, you know, to recruit people for terrorist organizations, in, for example, Afghanistan or whatnot. What is their go-to move? What is their go-to move? They have one go-to move every single time when they need to replenish the ranks of the Taliban and stuff. They do the same thing over and over and over again. They just drone strike a wedding, drone strike a, like an akika, any drone strike where people are gathering, and then that's how they get recruits to go to the Taliban, so they can have an excuse to have a forever war, keep fighting, because
absolutely,
Taliban's not going away. You know
absolutely.
what I mean? And when Jim Crow Joe Biden said that he's going to leave Afghanistan, right? All of a sudden, like a miracle, we heard of this new terrorist group called ISIS-K. Nobody on earth knew what an ISIS-K was before Joe Biden left. And now he has to do drone strikes to fight ISIS-K. And when's the last time one of us heard of ISIS-K anyways? Like what did it just, that drone strike wiped them all out now? You know what I'm saying? That's what they do, man. That's their go-to. They did it in Iraq. They did it in Somalia. They did it in Afghanistan. It's Syria especially. They start killing women and children, and that's how they recruit for the enemy. Because you're talking about a massive money-making scheme with the military-industrial complex. They sell weapons. That's their whole.
This is the thing. Like a lot of stupid Muslims, like, okay, but 9/11, all these things, the wars, it bankrupted the U.S. economy. No, you idiot! Who do you think they're buying weapons from? You think they're just going to, like, I don't know, they're going to Nigeria and they're going to Nigerians and that's who's getting all their. No, they're buying weapons from Lockheed Martin, General Electric, Colt. They're buying weapons from American companies. All you did, if you buy this whole economic, all you did is help flow currency in the U.S. economy. That's all you did.
That's it.
You supplemented, you allowed the U.S. economy to grow because you added economic impetus into it. Exactly. Because that's the thing, is that apart from that, America's economy is not in a great state, right? Nowadays. I mean, economies are all the things. Yeah.
That's not official night. It's a ramble night. MG. Salaam Alaikum, MG. You know what I mean? So now, you know what I'm saying? Like when you look at all of this type of global tactics that the enemy uses, they're way ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
they study psychology, they study economics and all this kind of stuff, and they know how to rip people off, like straight up.
Well, look at Henry Kissinger, who's the secretary of, like, he's one of the most important politicians. He's a professor. He was a professor at Harvard, and they said, "Why are you leaving Harvard to go work for the U.S. government?" He's like, "I'm sick of politics." Right? And so you have like one of the top American policy advisors was a very well-respected professor. They have professors who work on this stuff, psychological warfare, economic warfare.
Yeah,
and then what do they do?
Yeah. Read John Perkins' book. What's it called? Confessions of an Economic Hitman. He goes into great detail about that and all the countries he destroyed through economic warfare, bro. You know what I mean? You're talking about 20 years, $2 trillion in Afghanistan, and what do the Afghani people or the American populace have to show for it? Nothing, a whole bunch of nothing, but a hell of a lot of military contractors got like incredibly wealthy. You talk $2 trillion, man. They have conferences, legit conference. You can look this online, where military contractors and military weapon designers and whatnot, they have these conferences where they sell military in these conferences, military equipment.
Absolutely.
In these conferences. That's how big this money thing is.
And just as a side quick, a lot of people are pointing out it is funny, but people are pointing out the famous Crocodile Dundee, that you call that a knife. This is a knife. Let's talk about psychological warfare, right? People, a lot of like Hollywood macho male movements. If you look at that scene carefully, this is just as an aside, like that scene, who does he pull that knife on? Like the guy who comes to rob him with the knife, and then he pulls the knife. It's a black guy. Dirty Harry, when he goes and pulls the gun on the guy and says, "Do you feel lucky, punk?" It's a black guy. The 300
Yeah,
movie?
that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, the 300 movie where the Persians invade Greece and these like buff white dudes have to go out and fight these evil Persians who for some reason are all black. Never mind that even the Arab used to call themselves black versus the Persians. The Arab used to say that call themselves black in reference to Persians, and meanwhile the Persian ambassador who gets kicked in the well is this like Ghanaian Ashanti guy, right? That's the thing, psychological warfare of this great Western masculinity that they push in Hollywood, just as an aside, so we're talking about America, is based on the humiliation of black men. You know? This great Dirty Harry, Crocodile Dundee, King Leonidas, they all become great in those movies. They earn their masculinity by humiliating and degrading a black man.
Yeah. For
James Bond, one of his only movies in Jamaica, and the Jamaicans try to jump him, and he takes out the Jamaicans. One of the early James Bond movies is like this, you know?
Yeah. For those of you who remember,
psychological warfare. Like we're talking about it, and this is important. We're talking about an enemy who, on that level, can put in entertainment that you pay to watch, can train you into their ideology like that, and you think now that you, just by getting on a boat, could go to a country and you will defeat them in jihad. You know, that's the difference. Like, you know, this is the thing. Like,
Allah will help us. Allah will help us. Let's just get on the boat. Just get on the boat. Allah will give us victory.
Yeah,
get on the boat. Bring that Rambo knife.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll share it, all 7 of us. You know what I mean?
You know, we might even be able to get a stick, put it on the end of the fishing pole. Put on the end of the fishing pole. We have a spear.
They go for it because of that, you know. But I don't know if you guys are old enough to. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember this actor named John Wayne back in the '60s, but he got famous by making these westerns, right? And in every single one of these western movies that he made, every last one of them, he was wiping out Indians, like wiping them out, and that's how he got famous. You know what I mean? Like just like every single one, and he's like even up until this day, like he's pretty popular for he gave an interview to Playboy magazine. You know, he gave an interview to Playboy magazine, just like Malcolm X gave an interview to Playboy magazine. He gave an interview to Playboy magazine. They asked him, "What's your ideology, John Wayne?" And John Wayne himself said, "I am a white supremacist." Proudly, they didn't ask him, "Are you a white supremacist?" He proudly said, "I am a white supremacist." You know, and this is the big hero, the Republican. Like, if you look at Reagan, Reagan was playing John Wayne. Like if you look at the character that Reagan, because Reagan's also an actor. When Reagan kept the president, was basically he was a B-list actor. Yeah. Reagan
he invoked that image of John Wayne.
So he was a B-list actor, and he was basically copying John Wayne.
Yeah.
And not only that, but Reagan was like just a rabid racist.
Yeah.
He was the one. Excuse me, when the Black Panthers started exercising their Second Amendment right. Now, the Second Amendment was essentially the right to bear arms. Okay.
Yeah.
There was no gun control. No such thing as gun control before the Black Panthers started
open carry,
bearing arms publicly. Yeah. And
he was
the
one
this. In LA.
The NRA, think about this. Dave Chappelle mentioned this as well. The NRA have never supported any gun control bill ever. They've always vetoed. They always opposed it. But when the Panthers came out, that's the only time they've ever supported gun control. When the Panthers came out open carry, finish. The NRA, the great Second Amendment patriots, all that Second Amendment stuff out the window.
Exactly. And not only that, that same government, that same U.S. government, what they ended up doing in the Black community, and you will find, actually, I wanted to make a video about this, but I have to do it, like I have to document it properly. But anyways, what they did is that they would drop weapons and ammunition in the Black communities and just leave them there. Just leave them there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? and then wait to see what happens. You see what I'm saying?
It's like
And they
what's
still
that guy?
do it.
600 Breezy, this Chicago rapper, was being interviewed by Vlad. Vlad's like, "Did you hear Donald Trump wants to send the military into Chicago to stop the gun violence?" He's like, and 600 Breezy love. He's like, "Well, they're the ones giving us the weapons, right?"
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like they're the ones. He's just saying something like that's where we get our guns from. I mean, I'll take this aside though. I remember seeing a clip of a rapper in Chicago, gangster rapper, in one of these videos, and he's waving around a Glock 19 with a switch on it. Like all the modern rap music will tell me, they talk about switches. You know, a switch on a Glock with a switch, a Glock 19, a Glock 18, has never been sold on any civilian market. Exclusively the Glock 18. With the Glock handgun is very common, everywhere. But with the switch, it's only sold to military. But somehow, gangster rappers in Chicago, gang members in Chicago, can get their hands on Glocks with switches. I didn't realize they were in the military. You know, I didn't realize they were military contractors in Chicago. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So these are the same people that bring guns to our communities, drugs to our communities. Ain't nobody in the hood got planes to go fly to Colombia and bring, free base into the hood. That was all FBI, CIA operations. You feel me?
You know what I looked recently about Colombian cartels is that Escobar's second in command, Carlos Ladera. I didn't know this. His second in command, Carlos Ladera. I just learned this. Was a German Colombian. He was fully German, right? And he was a neo-Nazi. He was Escobar's second in command. Was a neo-Nazi. He was born in Colombia, but he was a German man. And he was he started a neo-Nazi movement in Colombia, right?
Wow,
from the
crazy.
prophets. And by the way, remember, Colombia has a lot of black people. There are 5 million black people in Colombia, right?
Yes, a lot. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share the link with you guys if you want to join us. If you have any you want to share with us, I'm going to put the link up in the comments. So come join us and tell us what you think. Come share with us. But again, the point of the moral of the story is that the same way that these people have socially engineered the black community, they're doing it with the Muslims. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Absolutely.
They're the ones recruiting your terrorists, and you're out there holding booths and stuff, talking about
Ibrahim Khan says how many young
extremism. Yeah, Islam is against extremism. Yeah. That's true. Islam is against extremism, but your government isn't. They're pro-extremist.
And so Ibrahim Khan says, how many young black guys has Clint Eastwood killed? Yeah, it's like if you see what's that movie that Clint Eastwood did with the Asians? And it's like there's that scene where there's that white guy is dating one of the Asian girls. He's walking and he's like sort of dressed like a rapper. And then these black dudes come out like, "Yo, cracker, what's up? We's gonna get your girl, man. Yo, man." Like this is stereotypical dude. And then Clint Eastwood comes, he pulls the gun out. He's like, "These guys aren't your homies. They don't want to be you, bro." So he's teaching the white guy that you like these black people there. And also the Asian girl, these people, these are savages, these are animals, right? But the old great white Clint Eastwood, I will save, even if you have betrayed the white race by wanting to be a wigger, I will still save you because you're still one of us,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Gran Torino, that's the movie, Gran Torino. That's the movie where the whole point of that movie is that he's a racist guy, but really he as a racist, he's a good man and a decent man. That's the whole plot of that movie. Is that he plays a racist guy who really is a good, decent man who loves the immigrants more than they love themselves. That's not psychological warfare.
They know what they're doing, man.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. It's us who are kind of like backwards and so many steps behind, and we are the ones who need to get it together. You feel me? They're doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right? They're out there winning, right?
Absolutely.
Because we don't got our stuff together.
Australia. I don't talk a lot about this media stuff. In Australia, we have a local version of Netflix just called Stan. It's a local version of Netflix, competitor. Do you know, if you go on Stan, I'm not sure if it's now, but like for a few weeks, do you know what the #1 TV show on Stan was? That Australians, keep in mind, that Australians are watching 50 Cent's Power. 50 Cent's Power, which is a whole thing about, the hood and how all the come up and being a gangster and all this. That's the image that Australians are seeing. That's the #1 TV show Australians were watching. About black people as criminals. You see? Now, you think that's a coincidence?
When I went to Yemen, I'll tell this story. 1 second. Hey, you guys, hook me up with some super stickers, guys. Come on, let's go. We were putting in work here, man. We're putting in work. We're telling it how it is. We are. I think I don't know any other like Muslim-based YouTube channel that tells you straight up that your so-called recruiters for these terrorists are these governments, and we have receipts and we show you. So when you have these people on one hand they're recruiting, and on the other hand they're saying Wahhabi this, Wahhabi that. Both of them are working against this divide and conquer, man. It's divide and conquer. That's why you got to stay on code. You have to stay on code. You know what I mean? But we put it real here. We just give it to you exactly the way it is, man. Right? So super stickers, man. Let's go. Right? Anyways, I see CL Edwards in the house, man. If you want to join us too, man, hop in, man. And anybody wants to hop in, man, I'm going to leave the link. Just put the link.
Yeah, American Gangster. That's true, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So
Frank Lucas. Look at Frank Lucas. He was just a front guy, like always. That's the other thing. When they want to destroy us, they always, again, same with Muslim countries. They want to destroy you. They bring one of your own to destroy you, right?
Yeah, of course. Muslims, that's how they do it.
Yeah, with the Muslims, our own is bigger.
They have. Yeah. This entire system they have. Whatchamacallit, Dr. Whatchamacallit? Oh man, what's his name? Kondo, right? He said that the FBI they basically made this system called snitch-jacketing, right? So a snitch jacket is when you have an actual agent, but he sets up somebody else saying that person is an agent. You feel me? So the person is not an agent, but he sets somebody else up and says that person's an agent. Like what happened with you, bro. Yeah, that's called snitch-jacketing.
Hey, speaking of snitch, did you hear what happened just this week in Harlem? Alpo, who killed 14 black people, including his best friend, Alpo Martinez. It's very infamous. There's a movie made about it, Paid in Full, right? Alpo Martinez killed 14 black people. He's a black Puerto Rican. He was out in the streets and somebody got him this week. Somebody shot him, right? But it tells you, the U.S. government didn't mind that he could kill 14 other black people, and because he snitched, they let him out. Yeah, that's the scene. That's the scene I'm talking about. The one that Ibrahim Khan brought up, even in Clint Eastwood's recent movie Gran Torino. Yeah, that's the scene where the free black guys come. Yeah, that's the one. See, and this is the thing. Like the government is behind this. Like the government would let someone like Alpo, who killed 14 people, because he killed 14 black people. They just let him out on the street, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Would they let a white serial killer out for doing something like that if he killed 14 white? If he killed one white person, right? Would they just let him out on the street?
Yeah.
No, but because Alpo's out, he'll kill other black people. Yeah.
But I was telling this story about when I was in Yemen. Okay, so I went to Yemen to go study in the Maj, right? And this time I was in Sana'a. And I was picking up some CDs for Sheikh Albani, rahimahullah. So I went to the CD shop, and I'm talking to the shop. He's a young guy, shop owner or whatnot. Right, so I'm talking to him in Arabic, but he recognizes like I'm a Westerner, so he wants to practice his English with me. Yeah. You feel me? So I'm talking to him, and we start talking about the West, and you know what I mean, and somehow the subject of anyway, I'll tell you the story, right? So he's talking to me about the people he knows in the West, right? He wants to know. He knows, my brother. I do know some Muslim in America, What's that nigga's name? Malcolm X. Well, he said that. What's that nigga's name? Malcolm X.
Yeah, I've heard this, that nowadays, that, like, you know, it used to be abd, but I've heard that nigger is becoming more, like, that actually calling people nigger is becoming more common in a lot of the Arab countries. I've heard this.
Why are they doing that? He's not saying that because he's racist.
Yeah.
You feel me? He's saying that because this is the image that he sees all the time on TV.
Yeah.
And what is the image that Black people see all the time on TV? And we do the same thing. So he's just basically emulating what he's being propagated to. You feel me? So it's
just like, look at this. Like, when we come into Islam and they tell us, we stop listening to music and all this, and then you see the same rappers who we stop listening to as Black people. They go and they perform in the Gulf. They go to Dubai. They go to Riyadh. You know, the same rappers. And of course, what's the image that gives off of Black people? Is that, like, not all rappers like this, but that Black people are stupid, proud to be gangsters, violent, proud to be gangsters, immoral,
rainbow head, tattooed face, skinny, scrawny, Percocet, pill popping. Pill popping. What's that thing, man? Like MSD,
Future, Molly Percocet. Future is also Molly Percocet.
Yeah, Molly sniffing. This is the image that they get, man. You know what I mean? And these guys, I'm sorry, they're retarded, and they're absolutely retarded. And people are just eating it up because let's be real. If you want to make something cool, you gotta put a Black person in front of it. You feel me? And you can sell whatever the heck you want after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah. Because I mentioned Alpo. Alpo was out on YouTube freely talking about all the murders he committed. It's exactly right. He killed his best friend, Rich Porter. So that's the type of Black people they want out of the streets. It's Black people who, again, all skin folk aren't kinfolk. Black people who are out there just will kill their own people. That's why they provide us these images of Black people killing each other in the West and outside of the West. Because this is one of the arguments. If you talk about racism or colonialism, people say, but in Africa, people kill each other. There's violence in Africa, right? And they talk about, there's police racism. It's like, but brother, don't you know there's Black on Black crime? Don't you know Black people kill each other? Don't you know this? The Black people kill each other.
They don't look at the social engineering or any of that, man. They don't look at the history, nothing. They just see the end result. You feel me? And it's like a little kid, when they see a piece of cake, right? They don't know the work about that goes into baking a cake. You gotta get flour, knead flour, put yeast, sugar, all this kind of stuff, bake it. All they do is eat the cake. And if they don't like it, they say this cake sucks, right? That's it. They don't care. It's like these guys, man. You know what I mean? They don't care, but at the same time, we as Muslims, we have to be a lot more intelligent, and understand this is exactly what the enemy does.
Yeah, because the enemy psychologically brainwashes us into and this is the thing, like, you'll see today how many Muslims, just the fact that these people can come and teach this jihadi stuff, how many Muslims have bought into the image of Islam that the media teaches? The image, because all these things are like, they may seem disconnected. We talk about Alpo, we talk about gangster rap, we talk about Musa Cerantonio. What's that connection? The connection is that the media teaches us to see ourselves a certain way. Who's coming to the chat?
Brother CL, Salaam Alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Alaikum salam.
How are you doing, bro?
I'm doing well. How you brothers doing?
I can't really hear. You're kind of quiet for me. I can't really hear you, brother. Salaam alaikum.
Yeah, turn up the volume, bro. Turn up the volume on your mic, man.
Is that better?
A little bit better. Shout into your mic.
I'm on a laptop, but I don't have my microphone on it.
All right. Go ahead, man. What you got?
No, I was just listening to you brothers talk. Everything you were saying. Like I pointed out, I don't know if any of you saw the movie American Gangster. It was about Frank Lucas. Now he was, he had the direct connect over in Vietnam. He was bringing over the heroin, and it was his cousin who was in the military, and it was the military police and colonels and everyone else. They were shipping the heroin directly over into the United States of America. And so I mean that's before. This is probably 20 years before crack. So we're not talking about crack. This is heroin back in the 70s. So, yeah, it's been going on. It's been going on the whole time.
And then what happened in 2003?
Yeah, the movie came out in 2004, 2005, something like that.
No, but I'm saying what happened. What was the what was the U.S. government doing in 2003?
What were they doing in 2000? Invading Iraq and Afghanistan?
Afghanistan, and why were they doing that? Why were they?
Well, they got poppy fields.
Why did they go to Afghanistan all of a sudden? Huh?
They got poppies.
Exactly. They were bringing heroin into the states, and not just the states. So really, like anybody who was with them, like any other country that's with them, they're bringing heroin into their countries. And then what happened? What happened after that?
We had a heroin/opioid pandemic.
Thank you. I just want y'all to say it. I want you to say it because I don't want anybody to say it's cap from me. That's when the opiate epidemic happened, and we went from just say no. This is these. You remember the commercial? This is your brain, and then put the egg. And they fry the egg, and this is your brain on drugs. Any questions? Right? Remember those?
Nancy Reagan. You had Nancy Reagan doing that also, and her husband. Everybody know what his husband was up. Her husband was up to.
Yep. And then all of a sudden, when white people started getting addicted to opiates, all of a sudden, drug addiction became a public health crisis. It was no longer a the what the
super predators. That's what they used to call black people, super predators.
Immoral criminals, these
also.
immoral. You know what I'm saying? It was a sickness now. It was an illness now.
But
But when black people were getting addicted to crack, it was this. It was a criminal. Action.
And this is one thing. We're talking about the social engineering. This is one thing that the ancestor Dr. Amos Wilson mentioned in his book on black crime, where he says that are you there? Because you just sort of cut out for a moment.
Yeah, I cut out for a minute. Yeah, go ahead, bro. We're back.
For all the social conditioning that they've done to make black people criminals and hate each other, like one thing you have to ask is that why is it when you really look at it, black people have, for the most black people by far are not criminals, despite everything they've done to criminal. Just like, for example, Muslims, how much they've done to push the image that Muslims are extremists, road terrorists. How many Muslims are actually extremists and terrorists? Like I've given you this whole story how in my community. In my community, this one white dude who was an admitted agent managed to get 6 people to go on a boat with him, and maybe ideologically around the whole world convince a few hundred people who had emotional, maybe mental issues, that this was a good idea,
Yeah. And that's all he could do, mind you.
Yeah.
That's all he could do. And who was paying him again, bro? One more time?
The intelligence service, right? This is the baby brother of the CIA.
Thank you. There's your Mohammed bin Abdul Wahab. There's your Mohammed bin Abdul Wahab.
The thing about Asia or Canadian intelligence and so on, or New Zealand intelligence, a lot of these organizations, they work for the CIA because being not American, often they're seen as less suspicious. So often, so I'm saying that the Australian intelligence service did it, but right behind them, because they're part of the Five Eyes network. You've heard of the Five Eyes network, right? The 5 countries who share intelligence. The 5.
I don't know about this. Who is it?
Yeah, the Five Eyes network. There are 5 countries who share intelligence secrets all of it together. This is official. And they are United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand. The family. See, this is the thing. It's like everyone says, it's Israel. It's not defending Israel or anything like this, but this is the family, the Anglo-Saxon family. There's a sheikh who used to speak at Speaker's Corner. I've seen him do some live streams. He's a training sheikh. He's Muslim, but he also does some talks on Africa and so on. And he made the point that we often use the Jew as the scapegoat for what white people do. You know, like white people will do something. You know, obviously, if white people can scapegoat blacks or Muslims, they'll do it. But sometimes they can't. So when that happens, what do? They say, "Oh, it's the Jews who did it." They might be involved. They might be involved.
Maybe,
but,
possibly. Yeah.
But the family is still there. Like you can't just see like this one or two Jewish people and ignore all these Anglo-Saxons around, like the Five Eyes Network.
Yeah.
Well, brother, you know, I just recently bought a book I've been reading called "The Invention of the Jewish People" by Shlomo Fan, who is an Israeli himself. So we talk about the Jew. That's a whole nother conversation in of itself. But like you had said earlier, we talked about Alpo, who recently got killed, and how he had been in jail. He killed 14 people. He had arrested for drugs. Now they were saying the rumor was that he was getting back in the drug gang. I think about all that. After killing 14 people, being arrested, being basically a FBI agent asset, he was getting back in the drug gang. And
Brother Reactionary, welcome. What you got, bro? Yeah, let me unmute you. Hold on. I think your mic is muted, bro. Brother Reactionary, if you can unmute yourself.
Salaam Alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yeah, how's it going, brothers?
Good, man. Alhamdulillah. Glad to see you again, man. How you doing?
Oh, good, thanks. I just posted a link in the private chat for you.
Okay, let me have a look.
It's a Supreme Court hearing. I think it was yesterday. About spying on Muslims post 9/11.
Yeah, I heard about this.
It's like 2 hours long, so I haven't watched the whole thing. But
yeah. Maybe I can chop it up and bring the pertinent points, and then bring it in one of the lives, man. Yeah, but go ahead, bro.
Yeah. No, that was it. I missed your show, your second stream. What was the you mentioned somebody that was on Peace TV or something? What was that about?
Musa.
Yeah. Very quickly. This brother Musa Cerantonio. I can't pronounce Cerantonio, right? He ended up becoming a terrorist, right? And then he allegedly was working for the Australian intelligence.
Not allegedly, it's in the court documents. His lawyer
said documents.
He was working for the intelligence service the whole time.
Yeah. And now it's come out that, we don't know for sure. Do we know for sure that he left Islam?
Well, there's a letter from prison that he released where he said, "I have left Islam." He said that in a letter. But the thing is, there was more media coverage, but most of it's been scrubbed. Like, I read a full article that I can't find anywhere now, and it makes me wonder almost, are they planning to reintroduce him back into the Muslim community? Even if, like, maybe publicly he renounced Islam, but he's being released. Maybe they're going to send him back in the community and say, actually, I was just fronting, and really this whole time I'm a great mujahid, and maybe he'll recruit more people. I don't know. Because that's what they do.
Yasin, you know what you're saying.
Yasin Ahmed, what you got?
All right, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, we can hear you. Loud and clear.
Good.
Go ahead, bro.
Now, alhamdulillah, I've been listening to you guys for a while, and it's great. Brother Bilal, Jazakallah khair. I wanted to say I share an experience that he shares. Back in 1988, 89, I think it was, more like 89, I left the country because I had been, my blood had been made halal, and Yasin is a spy. with no evidence, of course, just because people wanted to
Yeah.
take me off of what I was doing. I was doing some good
Snitch-jacketing.
work.
That's it's called snitch-jacketing.
Yes,
Right? It's a real
snitch-jacketing.
thing. Right?
Right.
And Muslims need to understand these things. And once you understand these things, you will stop talking about Muslims so much.
Yeah.
You understand?
Right. Right.
Because you don't know who is what and what is who. You're legit. You don't know.
Check
You know what I
this
mean?
out. Now, what
Mm.
happened? It happened. I actually left the country in order not to, because I was part of this masjid in a city that I won't name. It's a big city up north, and we were doing some things, and it was sort of a gangster Islam community, and I was part of it. Yes, I was part of it. And so what happened as I began to learn more about Islam, I accepted Islam in 1978. So here we go. 10 years later, I had just found the Sunnah by about 2 or 3 years, and I thought I was in a good community, you know, and I was like impressed because I come from DC. I'm like deep country, as they call it. I got to New York. I was like that thing in Stevie Wonder's. Oh man, he gets out big buildings, tall and everything. Hey man, run this across the street. I was naive. I didn't know what time it was, but I learned over time. So just to make a very long story, very short, I left the country in order not to be a victim or victimize someone. In both cases, I would be a victim, right? Because I say I come from the street. I got a strap. I can do it. I can, let me know. So anyway, I went to Germany in Nuremberg, where I worked at the Islamic Center in Nuremberg for a couple of years, about a year and a half. And they actually sent me to Mecca the first time I went, all expense trip paid and all of that. And I got to go there. That's what ended up getting me back. As I told you, I spent about 6 years there from 93 to 99, just over 6 years. So anyway, I ended up getting married. My present wife, we got married in 93, about a month and a half after I got there. MashaAllah. It's a blessing. And we alhamdulillah. So, but what happened is that you find that there's no growth. And I was trying to bring growth to the community financially. Again, I told you what I do teaching. At that time, I was into construction, which I did for 25 years. And I knew how to get the buildings from the city, get the training, do all kinds of things in order to uplift the community again. So that was one thing. Now, on the other hand, and I know you're familiar with this, our white complected brothers, may Allah Ta'ala make all of them sincere and guide them. But I remember back in it was the 80s, there was a guy, he had come out of Christianity, accepted Islam, and it was a big brouhaha, and they raised him up. And so it was a very embarrassing event that happened. You may have heard of it. He was at a masjid, and there was a huge masjid there. He's a speaker speaking about a deen that he doesn't really know anything about, right? But he's an authority all of a sudden, because you know why. So they asked him, Sheikh, why don't you lead the salat? Right? Well, he knew the Quran. The problem was he just didn't know it in Arabic. He got up and he started reciting the Quran in English. He had been very diligent. He learned Fatiha in English. You're right. And so he was up there fighting Fatiha, and I guess Qul Huwallahu Ahad and some of the shorter verse. But I'm sure the brothers were back there looking at each other like, what's going on? Right? But the thing is that unfortunately, even when we were overseas, we used to joke. I was a business person doing business in Saudi. And I said, if you want to be successful, you got to push up front one of your brothers, right? One of your lighter complected brothers. You know that, right? You know that. So push him up front. And you sit in the back, even though you might be running the show, but he's the face. And if he's the face,
you know what you're talking about, Brother Yasin. Like, this is something that's so common. Like for example, Yusuf Estes. I love Yusuf Estes. I don't have any issues with him, and
Right.
However, let's be real. Is he a sheikh in knowledge?
No, that's right.
No, he's not. He doesn't have Islamic knowledge. He's just a guy who was preaching for a long time, Christian preacher.
Right.
You know what I mean? Who became Muslim, and because he was a Christian preacher, became Muslim. They pushed him forward, and next thing you know, on PCF, he's making fatwa and everything, man.
Well, brother, you remember the controversy he got mixed up in?
Yeah, with the creation of the Quran and stuff, you know.
Ah,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, yeah, he got mixed up in all that because he was put forward and he started answering the question he really couldn't answer, and you know who jumped on that opportunity
Yeah,
to get on his head.
see, we're doing injustice.
of,
We're doing
of
injustice
course,
to our
Musa
brothers.
Cerantonio.
Right. And also the point is that
Mhm.
we're doing injustice, and we have to know, if you're a Muslim, you have to know that knowledge precedes speech and act. Just stop. Right. If you don't know, be quiet. And don't be
Yeah,
embarrassed. Don't be ashamed. I've
yes.
heard scholars do it. They say, I don't know.
Mm.
Right? Sheikh Uthaymeen, rahimahullah
Mm.
ta'ala, who I got to meet
Yeah.
and spend some time with, personal time with, while I was living in Saudi, on his deathbed, he said, "Ana talib, I'm a student."
Mm.
Here's one of the greatest scholars of our time. He says, "I'm a student."
Mm.
So
Yeah.
what about me? I'm not a
Yeah.
student. I always back down off of that. I'm a very smart, I'm a tulab. I'm like a minuscule student. I haven't formally educated, studied anywhere, but I've sat with ulama. I've sat in classes. I've even taught new Muslim classes and things like that. But I know where to stop. At least I pray every time that my tongue doesn't get me in trouble. That I stop where I and
Yeah, well, that's
say,
the thing. That's the thing, right? It's about knowing when to stop. However, in like, we're living in a time that I've never even imagined, and I can imagine you brother Yasin, because you're real old school. You became Muslim in the 70s and whatnot.
Right.
So I remember when I would go to travel and for Talib al-Ilm and whatnot, and I remember getting specifically approached by the feds, right? And then you would ask other brothers the same, did the feds approach it? And every last one of us, not some, not nine, all of us were approached by the feds for going to study, all, without exception. And then they would take our pictures in the masajid and ask about us, and what they did it for me anyways, and now they don't have to do that anymore. They don't have to approach you.
No,
they don't have to do anything, because you put all your information and what you believe online, and they have algorithms to make you think exactly the way they want. You feel me? It's a completely different game now. It's not the same. So now, because you are being led down these paths, like so many routes you can take for destruction, and you invest your time and your efforts to destroy yourself, with these social media platforms and whatnot.
That's right.
There has to be a completely different paradigm shift in the mindsets of the people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man. It's not something that's easy, because how many of us are willing to give up our social media for our mental health?
Salaam Alaikum.
You know what I'm saying? For the sake. Wa alaikum salam. Go ahead.
I was gonna just interject. Did you see the little short I did about the metaverse?
I didn't see it yet, bro. I didn't see it yet, but I know you sent it to me. But go ahead, tell us about it.
What all due respect, what you're talking about, that's 20 years. That's 20-year-old. That's 30-year-old technology. We're getting ready to go into the metaverse. I don't know if there's a video that Mark Zuckerberg has done. As you know, they changed the company name from Facebook to Meta. About the basically all the technological advancements they're going to do with the next version of the internet, which they're calling the metaverse, which is basically is augmented virtual reality. You'll represent.
You know what? A brother was telling me about that. I want to address this comment. Assalamu alaikum. As a white revert, it is true that because I come from a Jewish background, I was pushed up, as you say, and it really affected my iman. I had to truly work on my ikhlas. So this is just like may Allah unify and rectify the hearts and keep us on code with each other, man. I mean. Go ahead, CL. Go ahead.
Yeah, like I was saying, this new this new version of the internet, which is already being rolled out, especially with gaming, but it's going to take over the whole. He showed the video is almost an hour showing from gaming to the way people get on the do social media to how people work is going to change how you work, how you go to school, virtual reality, everything. You'll be able to you'll represent you'll have you'll be able to create a avatar of yourself, and you can take you through this avatar. You can go to any application and any different environment because you personally own that avatar, and you'll represent yourself however you want to represent yourself
through an
um,
avatar.
through an avatar. Yep. And
Wow.
then they were talking about attending concerts, functions, meetings, school, all through virtual reality. No more computer screens, no more TVs. It'll all be holograms. So instead of looking at the football game on your TV, it'll just be a hologram in the middle of the floor. You could go into virtual reality and be in the stadium. You know, it's crazy. That's why I asked on the video. I started asking questions like, "Do I have to pay zakat on my crypto? Can I pay zakat with crypto? What if somebody comes around talking about, I can't go to Jumu'ah. Can I go to Jumu'ah virtually? Do I get a reward for that?
Well, that's the whole thing came with this COVID situation.
Oh,
Like this whole coronavirus, everyone being locked down.
That's that's ushering in this.
Well, the infrastructure of the Dajjal is being set up at an incredibly rapid pace, because this generation that's coming up, they grew up on this stuff, so they see it like normal. But us who are older, we know something's wrong. Like, we know, you know what I mean? You don't even have to ask us twice. You feel me? We just know, and we're trying to warn the youth. Brothers and sisters, please, the super stickers, let's go. We're putting in work. Hook us up, man. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, share. You know what I mean?
All of this stuff that's going on, whether it's the meta, whether it's the COVID, whether it's a lot of these things are made, it's a plan. It's bringing something together to get people to accept certain things. What amazed me, shocked me, in fact, it causes me a lot of pain to look at the Muslims who have changed the way we pray. We've accepted social distancing as permissible. And one brother asked me, he asked me, I'm having this discussion with him because I've been challenging this from the moment it broke out. I've never done it. I always pray with the brothers who pray according to the Sunnah, and I bring the Hadith and I bring the Quran, and I said, what has changed? And he asked me, this brother asked me, who is a student of knowledge, he actually attended formal training, and he asked me, he said, are you saying that it's not the Sunnah? Now let that sink in for a moment. Social distancing, the question was, are you saying it's not the Sunnah? So I asked him, I said, well, okay, let's examine this. What is the Sunnah? The Sunnah are things that the Prophet ﷺ did, things he said, things he approved of, things that he witnessed and didn't say anything against, or one way or the other. And I was waiting, and I left it kind of there because there is another source of the Sunnah, which is the Sunnah the Khulafa Rashidin or min Ba'di. So we know that the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and that which they agreed on. For instance, the first adhan for Dhuhr, the early adhan for Salatul Jummah, they added an adhan, such as bringing the Quran together and things like that. These were things that was done with the approval, looking at the evidence. They didn't just do it. They talked, they agreed, they looked at the evidence, they looked at what supported it, and they did it. I said, what supports us doing the opposite of what the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam instructed us to do? He said, come together close. Don't let the shaitan, but he associated shaitan with leaving gaps, right? When he associated shaitan with leaving gaps, that shows the level of that order. Additionally,
mind you, in Islamic history, there have been several plagues
That's right.
You know, throughout Islamic, and much worse than COVID. We're
That's
talking about
right.
the black
That's right.
plague. That was the like a really big one. In
Yes.
millions of
Much more lethal.
people. Yeah, much more lethal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
And
brothers, look,
go ahead.
can I agree and disagree with what you're saying?
Go ahead.
So,
Go ahead, Sheikh.
all right. So, in terms of praying at a distance, okay. So, in Islam, there are things you do your fara'id, you do what's wajib upon you if you're able to do so, or to the extent you're able to do so. So, if you're in salah and you're unable to stand up, you pray sitting down. Now, if
Supported
there's
by
a
the sunnah,
situation
though.
where
The Prophet prayed
yeah, of course,
sitting.
it's supported by the sunnah, but also the
Okay.
salah. Yeah, of course. But one of the key criteria in fiqh is that you distance yourself from harm. Okay, avoiding harm is greater than doing something that brings benefit. Okay, so the scholars who are experts in the religion, they've studied it their whole lives. Who are experts? They've memorized the Quran, they've memorized the Sunnah, they've studied fiqh for years. The top scholars have reviewed these situations and they've said, look, to prevent the harm, based on the knowledge that they were given by the scientific experts, they understood that if you keep a distance of 2 meters, that's sufficient to kind of
Who came up with that 2
mitigate the risk
meters?
of the.
I hate to
I just want to
interrupt.
interject
Well,
something. Just
wait, let me. I'm getting to my point. I'm
Let
getting
the
to my
brother
point.
finish.
So,
Let the brother
Okay,
finish.
all right, go ahead.
yeah. So in terms of the ulama making that ruling, there's no issue with it. It makes sense. All right. It's a reasonable judgment on the situation. The issue I have is them trusting the scientists. Right? There's like a blind acceptance of whatever a group of scientists put forward by the World Health Organization who are promoting one opinion. They've shut down any opposition on YouTube, globally whatsoever. And we're just told to accept vaccines and mandates and all this stuff. And they're just following blindly this opinion, not thinking that there might be some other agenda behind it.
Hold on.
To flag that even though I kind of started it.
Wait. Time out. Everybody time out. Time out, right? We have to be very, very, very careful.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
Because YouTube will shut us down,
Yeah.
right? And they won't shut you down; they'll shut me down, and then we will all be going to.
We'll all be going on vacation, bro.
Yeah, exactly. We have to be very, very careful. Maybe we can do like this topic at another time. Actually, you know what I mean?
On a Zoom or something. On a Zoom.
Yeah. You know what I mean? On a Zoom or you know what I mean? Yeah, because this right here, it will get my channel shut down. You know.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to flag. That.
But I want to say, first of all, thank you again, Sister Tika. She's showing the brothers up. Okay. May Allah give you Jannatul Firdaus. Ameen.
Ameen.
Everybody say Ameen.
Ameen.
May Allah forgive you your sins. Ameen. You know, and may Allah raise your ranks and cause this as an expiation for your sins. Ameen. Ameen. And yeah, so with that particular topic, we will probably push it to the side, right? Yes. Because you know, it's gonna get way too hot, right? It's gonna be way too hot.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to flag, that we should drop that. But that's all I was trying to say.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair. Right,
so I was just warming up, bro.
So I'll let everybody get in closing remarks, and then we'll shut it down, inshallah. So we'll start with Brother CL.
Yeah. So basically, you know, we live. If you understand how the country is structured, there's a connection, direct connection between government and business. They call it crony capitalism. And you can even add military to that, because military is a perfect example. So military is ran by the government, it's a part of the government, but you couldn't have a military without big business and, big military, Lockheed Martin and other companies that the brother had mentioned earlier. So there's that they're together. So once you understand that's how the country is ran, then you should be able to be smart enough to question the things that you see whether it's online, whether it's on social media, whether it's on television or any type of media, even some of the stuff that may come over the microphone in certain masjids or churches or synagogues. So you just have to be vigilant, think for yourself, and ask questions. You know, that's all I got to say on that.
And brother reactionary, go ahead.
Okay, brothers. There was another channel I came across about. It's a brother from the UK who's doing a hijrah, or talking about hijrah. He's gone to Malaysia, or another country, anyway, I'll say. And in this country, they've instituted this new law that says you're not allowed to go to the shopping mall. You're not allowed to go to school. You're not allowed to go to work unless you've taken a particular jab. Okay?
Vacation.
Avoid a vacation, yeah. So now he can't do anything unless he gets it. He's forced to take it.
Melbourne is like that.
I'm going to say, may Allah bless the United States, because that's the one country in the world where people are standing up to this tyranny. Okay? That's the one country in the world where, like, they'll give a religious exemption. Christians will say, we don't want to take this. Why aren't Muslims speaking against it? Why are all the Muslims just falling in line and blindly following? We're told not to accept taqleed in matters of religion. Why are we doing taqleed on this matter of supposed science? Anyhow, that's I just wanted to make that point across.
Great.
Thank
Brother
you.
Yassin, go ahead.
Now, alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair again, brother, because you bring good topics, and we do want to be careful. So I apologize for raising that subject, because it is something that we need to discuss sort of on the side. But addressing what our brother is saying, this is a letter that I just pulled offline today for exemption for taking a vacation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is one that I put out. I created myself for in 2017. I was working for the University of Maryland. They're the only ones that ever asked me to present a letter from a religious authority, right, with some religious evidence. I usually just sign the document and say exempt and sign it, and that's it. But I did that in 2017. I'm not new to this. I've been doing this for almost 20 years. So I think we have to be together, you know, and work together. And again, I thank you. I don't know how you do it, Ak, but you bring up some topics that need to be discussed and that stimulate. I'm hoping that you will allow me to be part of future discussions as well. Thank you very much for bringing it.
You're more than welcome, Sheikh. You're my elder, right? And you know, you have some very insightful things to say. So you're more than welcome. Hayakumullah and Jazakallah khair for participating. Thank you so much for your kind words. And it's not as easy as it looks. Just put it that way. I wouldn't even call it easy, you know. Brother Abu Umar, he knows, man. He knows all the stuff I got to go through in the background, and he knows some of the stories, you know, that all the times that I've been shut down. You know, I've been shut down. The channel has been shut down 7 times. Okay.
Subhanallah.
Right. I can't say that. I had 7 strikes on my channel. No, 8 strikes. Sorry, 8 strikes on my channel. All of them were by Muslims except for one. Every last one of them were by Muslims except for one. That just shows you what's going on. You know what I mean? And the one time I got struck by non-Muslims was the time we talked about the cocoa. Right? So we gotta be careful when we're talking about the cocoa.
Right.
Go ahead, Abu Umar.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, Jazakallah khair for the opportunity to come on the platform. We've been connected for a while. It's been long overdue. So just Jazakallah khair for, you know, having a platform like this and, you know, paving a way for these discussions to even be able to happen. Because without you, mashallah, these discussions would not be happening. So Jazakallah khair for that.
Hayakallah, Jazakallah. Thank you again for your kind words, and may Allah reward all of you. I mean, you know, may Allah reward everybody that joined us and participated with us today. And you know, we just gotta, you know, find a way to unite and make something happen. You know what I mean? And really, that's what this channel is about. It's not about anything else except for dealing with real issues, so we can come up with some real solutions. You know what I mean? So, hayakumullah. Like, subscribe, share. Hit me up on Patreon. And also, don't forget to subscribe to my mirror sites, the infamous Feachaz on YouTube, and as well as the Feachaz at library. That's lbry.com. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam.
Wa barakatuh.